I actually don't know if I want to do this in Paint or a spreadsheet. I gotta study some Quinn. Um, Basically nobody plays hardcore, so no, probably not. There's not much specific hardcore content out there. How we hit league start. Again. Oh, the melee alley hit. Yeah, Ice Nova is still good. Hmm. I want to do this in Paint. I don't know, I'm kind of feeling a spreadsheet, which is not like me. What time is the Jung interview? I might watch that. At least on the side or something. 2 hours. I don't know, I kind of wanted to do a GC minor run, but what the fuck? What is this starter gear, dude? 1100 DPS bow? Lamau. Yeah, it's fubs. Yo, actually using Rat's Nest, holy. I've not seen that in a long time. No, you should start HC trade. I mean, day 2 is Headhunter for him. To be fair. I think Skelly Mages for HCSF is probably one of the worst builds you can pick. I'm definitely not starting Exsanguinate Miner. I could probably be a little bit bigger. I don't think I'd like Resident Evil. If a game has story as the focus of it, I probably won't like it. Can you do Dom Blow as poison? If you can, then Necro. If you can't, then Guardian. Probably. Where is HC friendly? It's right here, dude. Can you read? I move chat over here. Okay. We need DVS and they have clear speed and bossing category. Yes. RF Chieftain is like 4 out of 5 clear speed and 4 out of 5 defense, and it's like a 0 out of 5 bossing. Why isn't fun one of the metrics? Because it's like your opinion, man. Are you guys actually retarded? Like, holy fuck, just read the what is wrong with you guys? SSF viable? Hardcore viable? Genuinely. Are you guys blind or stupid as fuck? There's literally 5 words on the screen. Jesus. Okay. Baldo's capability? That's not, you can't do that on a League Starter, dog. Thunder Berserk still good for League Start? No, but it's okay. Which League Starters Papa John's approved? Pizza sticks, obviously. Obviously pizza sticks. Why is it called Pokey Sticks? Pokemon make it? Pokemon. Budget. It's a League Starter! There is no budget. It's a League Starter. Actually, I usually do I do a scalability, I usually do a scalability good idea. Late game scaling. Yo, you think they nerfed the belt? Make the shrine shit on it? Nerf the mana regen shrine. I haven't checked the patch notes in a while, actually. Hold on. Wait, why is Vol Breach being disabled? The patch note, it's been disabled since last league. Had a bug where Varun had no variance on the damage of his attacks. Wait, is that why he owned you? Was he just doing max damage all the time, or was it minimum damage? Maple Story music tier list? Maybe one day. Ellie hit that Iron Kinetic who sled Ice for Hyro. AF Hyro's definitely the best thing there. Or a punishing shrine buff grants 200% increase mana regen. Okay. Yes, hardcore trade. Settled on? I don't know. I'm going Champ, Fuslit, or Archmage. Towards Archmage. Yeah. Shoot, the new Shock Nova looks cracked for it. Drug strength stack something? I don't know. Mana is almost certainly more better still. Do like clear speed. I don't think clear speed of 5 is a 5 because I mean, is that at least a 4? Maybe a 4.5. Well, this league it might be a 5 compared to other things. Those are really like I'm trying to think of a really good clear build, but a lot of the really good clear builds have been like nerfed in some way. I guess it's basically a 5. Yeah, I think KB would have more clear. Yeah. Give it a 4.5. I mean, regular KB didn't get hit at all, right? Yeah, I guess the rune graft hits it still. Does the rune graft change? That would technically hit the bow builds too, right? Because it's like the tornado interaction. So, must the bows not use the tornado? No. Yeah, I guess you lose the rune graft, but you get the imbue thing. Although the imbue might be a lot harder to get than the rune graft was. It's gonna. I mean, if it confuses people, you deserve to be confused. So. Don't think there's a best weak start. You can use any ability you want to, regardless if it's slow or not. It does not matter at the end of the day. What you showed for clearing, you cleared act in 1 and 2 minutes. Wow, cool, shiny. Hey, true, dude, true. Rock on. Epic message. Based as fuck. Visual clarity is like, okay, I think. Lightning arrow is pretty good, right? Ellie hit a little worse, I think. It's still pretty good. Not bad. It's like I'd say like 3.5. Like there's a lot of shit, but you can kind of see through it. Maybe even 4. I don't know. I mean, looking at the video, like hmm. Yeah, I mean like it's a lot of shit, but you can see through it. At least I can. Doesn't really cover anything. I guess it's probably not a 4. I'll leave it at a 3. I'll do 3.5. What do you mean? It's definitely not irrelevant. Guess depends what you mean by late game. Boss or at least start week 1 or 2. I don't know. There's a lot. I don't know if there's a definitive best. Okay, so the reason I didn't want to give it a 5 is like you can make it insane, right? I mean, everything dies, but you'll still die. I mean, you won't really ever die because you're killing everything, but like you're not immortal, where you can play a build that has like similar clear and you're immortal. You know what I mean? You could play a build that has pretty much the same clear and do bosses. I mean, I guess you can just delete the boss, but like... No, none of these stats impact each other. Well, not directly. I mean, they obviously impact each other, but like... It's kind of a more abstract thing. It's not like a formula because... That's too complicated. Beef is good. Okay. Looks pretty right to me. Looks pretty accurate. Yeah, I still think Wander's probably better. Please add example starter endgame POBs for each build. Yeah, my rate is $50 an hour for that. If you donate, I will work on that for however many hours you donate, okay? Yeah, okay. If you just do 50 up front, I'll work on a POB for an hour. No, I'm revising the rate actually. It's like $90. There's no way I'm making a league starter to endgame POB for like 40 builds I'm gonna put here. That is out of my pay grade unless you want to upgrade it. Way out of my pay grade. That should take me till league start. Content creators fantasize about being paid to do PvPs. I don't think so generally. I think most people do it for the love of the game. But for me, I fucking hate making POBs. So no, I'm not fantasizing about it. That's just the only way I'll do it because I'm not making 50 POBs for no fucking reason. No, I'm not doing that. I like playing the game. I don't like making POBs. I'm a gamer, not a spreadsheeter. So I make it in Paint. Okay, there's also a difference between making a POB and making a tutorial POB for the dumbest people in the world. There's a big difference there. If I make a POB for a build like this, I get people asking me, can I buy the same rares with the same names as you? That's not That's not my thing. Not my thing. I've worked very hard to not have that be my audience. So if that's you, you can go fuck yourself. I do not want you here. I've worked very hard for that not to be my audience. Alright, what should I do for the next build? Like, did people, like, for a build like this, it happened with KB Wander a lot. A build like this, there's, like, legit people who are like, hey, I couldn't find your Sundering Thunder wand. This build sucks. Those kind of people can go to Fubgun, Pox, whoever else. I don't want them. I don't want them. Right? Like, normal questions that aren't stupid is fine, but, like, you know, like that, no. No, I can't, dude. Cannot. I don't usually get those problems because I just don't entertain them. They usually go to Pox or something, is what I mean. Ziz, Pox, Bubgun, Palstron, you know. They can all go there. I don't mind that. They're allowed to go there. Okay. That's not to say I hate every question. If you like, there's two kinds of questions I hate. One that's just straight up stupid, like the rare name. That's not even the worst one. The worst one is the one that's actually on the screen. That's the worst, when there's an answer on the screen and people ask. Thanks for the 6-7 tip, Verona. I'm probably not making anything with the exceptional sports now. But you know what I don't get that happens all the time? I'll be doing a run, right? I'll be like doing a boss or something, and someone will be like, what's the damage like on this? Like, I don't know, bro. Why don't you look at your screen? AB Wander, I guess. Nobody plays cock anymore. Genuinely, it has been so long since I've seen a popular cock build. I guess the Forbidden Riot thing. But other than that, basically nothing. Yeah, I'm gonna be real. I miss Cosprey's Malice cock builds. That aesthetic was like peak. I put week 1 in late league currency farm strat for each build. Pretty much you don't ever pick a build based on your you don't ever, how do I word this? You don't just pick a general build and think about a specific strategy. Well, you can, but like 99% of builds just do every strategy almost the same. The only time that's like not the case is if you're doing something specific, like Caswin's done Ultimatum, like you really want to specialize really hard, and there's like three different builds you do. But generally, every build does everything decently. Um, Wander. I think the damage is roughly the same on Wander as bows. I think most people want to pick a good league starter so they have a good experience. And then there's like 3% of people who think everybody's agonizing over it like them when in reality somebody just wants the blast. I don't think most people really agonize over their league starter. Pick good build and play game, GG. Did regular KB even use the rune graft? I don't. Bubgun's POB doesn't have it. Is it only Blast of Clustering? Oh, it doesn't even use it. Okay. Oh yeah, yeah, true, true, true. True, true, true is one prod. Okay, am I crazy? What the fuck is wrong with Bubgun's bow POB this league? Am I going crazy right now? What the fuck is wrong with this thing? Okay, let's take a look at his. Okay, wait. Okay, mid game. This is his Wander one from last league. This is his bow one. Let's take a look at the difference in gear. Fractured. I'm not sure if those are T1 or T2 mods, but I think they're T1, the prefixes. 1200 DPS. And then the mid-game wand is 2 mods and multi-mod. Bro, what is the difference here? Why are they... Got a 2 mod shield here, got a 4 mod bow. Okay, the body armor is actually pretty mid-game. That's actually early game. Bro, you just went crazy on the bow here. Jesus. Hey, I don't play bow builds, so maybe that's realistic. Maybe that bow is equivalent to this wand. What do I know, dude? I could be, I don't know. I don't know bow builds. Bow? Oh, there we go. Maybe you just clicked the wrong one. Because there's more reasonable ones down here. I don't know. I just wake up off stream and some lucky off stream drops true. Okay. Threw me off a little bit there. I can ask him on his stream. Well, that's the difference between me and you. I use my brain. You guys just ask streamers and don't think. Why would I ask him when I could just like think for 2 seconds? Okay, more like 2 minutes. I don't know. I feel like it's probably about the same. Yeah, dude, when is somebody gonna make a chat GPT for PoE? I think the problem with that is you would need to manually train it on everything, and then you might as well just make a guide instead. Like, just the numbers aren't enough. I mean, it's kind of enough, but kind of not enough too. Hmm. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like the damage is probably pretty similar. I'm curious how bad gambling will be this or next league or this league. There's a lot of builds you can play if your gear's bad. It's fine. I'm gonna piss off so many people making these stars different colors. Maybe Wander. It's not as bad as like clustering, but still pretty bad. Give it a 2. Clustering dead now. Yeah, I mean, they didn't change it for sockets, so that should still be good, but... Luna loves gilfs. That's true. Well said, well said. That is pretty true. Sounds about right, Lemko. Yeah, dude, RMT sites get crazy, whatever that word is for where websites show up. What's that acronym? SEO, yes. Dude, I can't believe PoE 2 got fucked on SEO for the wiki because GGG gave Extra Life early info. Holy fuck, dude. I'm still upset about, well, not really upset, but like, it's just like, wow. Fucking Extra Life is always the first thing that comes up now because they got like early shit. And then they got it through, and then they leaked it, so they were the first ones. And their wiki is like not updated and shit. Honestly, if their wiki was not shit, I wouldn't have cared, but. I'm not even. I don't know why their wiki shit. I mean, they make at least their Dark Souls videos are like okay. Yeah, dude, that one was crazy too. Some French viewer that's like a 80 viewer streamer, or I think it was even less, and they gave him the entire info on all the patch and he leaks it. Ugh. I'm telling you, they leak things as a marketing strat now. It's actually leaks every league now. I'm sure there was one this league too. Like people were talking about like they knew it was a roguelike early. I don't know where the leak was. I didn't see it, but I'm pretty sure there was a leak this time too. The actual wiki is it actually doesn't show up anywhere on SEO, but it's poe2wiki.net. I think if you look up PoE Wiki, it doesn't even show up for 2. It'll show up for 1, but not for 2. No, I don't know what the new filter blade change is. Well, you get hit once and you die in a boss arena, so yeah, it's pretty bad. Bro, how are you still typing this, Cliz? Rage Gaming? Oh, they've given him early stuff too. They even flew him out to LA for the play test, which I was at. If I'd known, I wish I knew. I wish I knew. Dude, I wish I knew that. Um, you be updated with the new tree yet, or do you have to manually do it? Yeah, those are the only 2 I've done. Yeah, they released the tree, but they didn't. I don't think POB updated it. Do you want to see? How much damage does this lose from? How do I decrease this total buff effect? Can I not do negatives? I guess not. Decrease doesn't work either. I guess I could maybe just unclick this. I guess I could just unclick it. Oh yeah, it's probably reduced. I mean, it's still fine. I think it's still working. Yeah, this doesn't have any clusters. Maybe it does. Guys, that's one. Fine. I don't know, but because I mean, I wouldn't play elementalist, but I kind of want to put the things that were nerfed but not destroyed just to show the change, you know? I mean, I think you go. I think you go Deadeye here in softcore. Um, on Necro, do you go straight to clustering, or do you stay regular KB for a while? Yeah, I would assume you can go clustering pretty early. Yo, dude, I want Scorching Ray to be. I want Scorching Ray to be buffed. Alright, okay, wait, here's what I'll do. I don't want to, I'm not gonna, here's what I'm gonna do. Usually I just do a trillion things, but I think for variants, I'm just gonna go, at least for similar variants, I'm just gonna write a little thing under it. Maybe Deadeye is good for map and bossing. Not bossing. I'm gonna spell defense differently every time I type it. I'll do this. Compared to Deadeye, worse, better, defense, clear DPS. Yeah. A little smaller, make it a different color. Maybe elementalist, maybe necro. Significantly better. Legion farming good. It's been kind of mid, I think. I guess, okay, well, KB Necro probably shouldn't go there because you don't stay regular KB. I'll just put it KB of clustering. Yeah, I don't think we can know what mechanic is good at all because Mirage might significantly change them. Yeah. I guess I'll do KB Warden. I guess they're both really squishy, so I'm not even gonna say. I think Warden's probably slightly worse, right? But, well, no, I guess they both get literal 0 defense. I guess Warden gets freezing. I don't know, does Warden even click the freeze node? I don't think so. I think you go the tincture thing and unbound avatar and then oh shit. Yeah, I'm curious how much ore you can get up with sipping. Can't imagine it takes that long. Does Jungron configure his POBs? Seems like the kind of guy that would. Um, maybe not. Okay, maybe not. There a final version who did this? Just like final final, not like Endgame, but okay, well definitely not this. Day 2. I think Jung interviews in like 40 minutes. Somebody said. The weapon. Mana, attack, speed, crit. Oh, this shit's not configured at all. Come on, Jung, you seem like the kind of guy that would configure your POB. Still not configured though. Guess I'll look at let's look at the video. At this point, it's I think it's video. Yeah, that's true, but you can say that for a lot of builds. I mean, I think pretty much every build's gonna feel annoying compared to last league. Hard to compare to the tree, it was so OP. Just throw map mods on this. I'm a bitch. Yeah, I mean, this PoB doesn't even have that much mana though, so. Video to catch up on league mechanics? I'm sure there is. I don't know who made it though. Probably Ziz or something. Not using the rune graft here either. Unless it's supposed to be one of these. I don't know, maybe I just do Hyra instead. Am I dash? Hmm. Yo, Leggy's doing a run right now. I think it's in like 30 minutes. That's Uber Lab. The damage looks pretty good actually. Okay, this doesn't. Nice one, dude. Yeah, clustering is definitely like a 0 star. Oh, especially on this, because it has the VD too. Hmm. What? Wait, Premiere? What do you mean Premiere? Wait, this isn't live. He just uploaded it instead of letting you see it all at once. It's just the full, you have to watch the full run live. Nice. That's a new tech if I've ever seen one. Starter build should be easy to push T16 or just yellow. If your build can't push past yellow maps or struggles to, it's not a build. It's you clicked random nodes on your tree and clicked a random skill. Or your hands don't work. There's always self-skill issue. I'm either starting kinetic fusillade champ totems or Archmage, Shock Nova. I don't know, I think I'm gonna do Shock Nova. It looks pretty cracked. Looks pretty good. Going all right. Play RuneScape at the same time. What do you mean? Yeah, Cold Dot's fine. It's just a trillion buttons, which is so not worth for the amount of damage it does. So not worth. Bone Shatter's fine. Yeah, Cold Dot, you basically just click every Cold Dot skill and then cast them all. So it's like genuinely like a 12 button build. And you have to keep using every skill pretty much. It's like a PoE 2 build, dude. Actually, no, it's not. PoE 2 has one-handed builds. Hmm. Well, not. And people don't set up their POBs anymore? What do you mean, dude? Lead slams are playing in softcore. I mean, it's not bad. You can. I mean, it's gonna be slower than like a glass cannon build, but it's a good balanced build. The belt should be pretty cheap too. Meal prep is best for boss without sacrificing clear speed. Eggs. Yeah, no, bleed slams is a solid. Why bleed slams? Certain map mods will fuck you, just go regular slams. You mean like you have to avoid one mod? You avoid one mod and you can do Fizz Reflect because you're Slayer. You don't. And then regular slams got nerfed, but bleed slams didn't. Pretty sure bleed slams are better than regular now. Alec just talked about this in his video.
Hey guys, in this video I'm just going to talk about 3.28 melee stuff. Main build I want to play this league is a Grey Wind build. As of right now, I didn't get to play one last league, so that's probably the main thing I want to play. See how that goes. Should be strong, looks good on PoE and stuff. Look back actually, and I only played last league, that Reach League, for 3 weeks, and I got 3 Mage Bloods in 3 weeks in hardcore, got kind of bored, quit. Tree made it really fast and all that stuff, but I think most of my builds I kind of want to, like, what does my build look like, you know, a month in or 2 months in or something like that. I don't care about that. So most of this gear is like pretty early, like 1 weekend, maybe. Analytics in the description if you want to look at those. All those analytics guides are actually already up for a bunch of the builds I played last league. All those builds are still good. Some of the new skills might be decent, but none of them look like that. Those conversion skills are kind of looks cool. Probably playing HC trade. I thought about playing SSF, but I don't want to sit there and fill like up the farm 3 times longer to get anything done. You know, like, hey, what if I have bad RNG, getting a Grey Wind, or maybe they nerfed it down to 2% drop or something silly like that. Probably actually playing HC trade just makes more sense. Right now, it was like day 1, 4 or 5 million DPS, like literally. It's like, I am starting that. They should still be king for basic starter intro build for 3 weeks right now. I don't have the patience for that, I don't think. So, Circus Slams, I am starting that. They should still be king. I know a lot of people are freaking about over those nerfs, but that stuff was like day 1, 4 or 5 million DPS, like literally. It's like retarded. So, it's plenty fine even after nerfs. It'll get you straight to T16. You kind of just run forward on that build. You don't have to stop and gear or like stop and consider. You just run forward and you kill stuff forever until, you know, you're farming your T16 stuff, and then you just chill there. Then you decide eventually if you want to push further with like the old 17s or Uber territory content, whatever. But I'm probably just farming my Grey Wind build on a Zerger Slam, and then rolling into that. Basically, you just get a crap ton of life, you get some Fire Pen, get a couple of Cluster Jewels. None of this stuff is even that hard to get. You just, it can take a little bit of time. That's why I don't want to play SSF, because having to take a little bit of time for 10 different items is kind of annoying. So, HE Trade is what I'm playing. That'll accelerate. It'll be even faster if you play Software Trade. It's all face tank, Uber level, and comfortable, juiced up map stuff. It looks really good. Big Fire Pen, big life pool, cap suppression. What can go wrong, right? So didn't even bother to POB like Mage Blood territory gear, like anything crazy like Crown of Ice setups or Wrath Death, or using a different skill with Grey Wind or whatever. But I know those things can exist. So if I want to go further in that direction, a crazy investment I can. But just make a bunch of money on my Grey Wind guy when I have it set up and just decide if I want to farm or play something good later, or maybe one of the new skills actually is OP. Nobody realized it yet. So last week I played Bone Shatter Bleed. I don't want to play Bleed build ever again, but it's not bad at all. It's just the PDR mod. This resistance mod makes me want to log out. Build Strike House, which was always good. You reflect on the starting cast resist. Use any damage when you cast a spare with terror. That'll be in the middle of the too. If you want that build, it takes the gear out more than one to be playing. Great builds, definitely HD Ubers, farming whatever, all that stuff is good. You can definitely take for Slime still all the way to farming territory, but whatever unless you actually know what you're doing, since it's kind of a switchier territory build. Thank you. Yeah, Grim, that's what I want to play. See anything else looks good. Very basic, simple, straightforward. All these builds are really easy.
Didn't mention Bleed Slams. Yep, I didn't think so. I don't know how I got baited by that, because Alk only ever plays the same fucking 2 builds, ever. I understood it. He doesn't talk about Bleed Slams. Doesn't talk about Bleed Slams. I got baited. Congrats, you've wasted everybody's time. He's talking about Bleed Bone Shatter. Was it actually at the very end? No way it did. It's Bone Shatter, you fucking idiots! That's not a slam, dude. I got baited twice! Oh my god. Got me twice. Fool me once. Alright. Fool me twice, shame on me. Choose what I hear what I want. He said Bleed Bone Shatter. He said a personal reason for not liking Bleed Bone Shatter. Do I get baited for a 4th time for content? How do you, wait. How do you search the transcript thing on a YouTube video? Fan video description. Oh, show transcript. Nice. Wait. Fortress boss part. Nice, dude. Okay, Bone. They still fuck slams though, even if you said Bone Shatter fucks those mods. I already explained this. Here, I'll explain it again. So since Bleed Slam is Slayer... Actually, did he play it on Slayer? Hold on. Also, Alkaiser Bone Shatter. I actually don't know what he played it on. I think it was Slayer, actually. I don't know. It is an Alk thing to do Jug, but I think he did Slayer. It is. Anyways, back to what I was saying. Bone Shatter gets hit by more mods than slams do. Slams don't have a ramp time, Bone Shatter does. Post Wall of Flesh build. Yeah, I know I didn't talk about mines, but I talked about totems twice. You're welcome. Thanks.
You're welcome. Cute.
Yeah. Uh, Fish for Big Bleed Slam? Kind of, but not really. Okay, so like the slam is like it's a random roll, right? Earth Shatter is you need to attack 10 times to get the full ramp. So Ground Slam or Bleed Slam is probably like a 1 in 3 chance to hit your max thing. Something like that. Bone Shattered, you need like it ramps every single time. Nothing can ruin Ground Slam's clear. You can easily ruin Bone Shatter clear. Like Bone Shatter gets fucked by so many mods. Honestly, that's the only reason I haven't played Bone Shatter Bleed. It's because Bone Shatter gets fucked by so many mods, and then also you add Bleed on top of it. It's a way different scenario. Those two builds are not alike. I don't know. Haven't seen GC mines. Oh. Thanks. Definitely clustering necro. Dude, Bone Chatter will drive somebody crazy. My point of reference for clustering is playing it on champ. I'm trying to think of how it would compare. Champ's damage was like a 3. Probably gonna be a 2 now with the nerf, or 2.5. Yeah, Corpse Pact is 200% increased damage. On champ, you'd get like... yeah, probably around 60 on a league start. 60 there. 25 there, 100% increased damage. Another 15% damage there. Necro gets 10% more. Chilled and shocked. 200% cast speed. I guess if you go chaos, alright, never mind. Oh, then you go glutton and mistress probably. Are the tigers still gonna be just slappable on? Because I have half the HP now. What if they just die? I was tigers on champ. I don't remember how often they survived. Yeah, I guess they... yeah, I guess you just instantly keep spawning them. That's true. Sure. Yeah. I don't know, 3.5. No, but its damage has got to be rough kind of early. I don't know, I haven't looked at Garotha's video, but I'm assuming it's the same as every other Archmage, so I think it'll be good. It's probably what I'm starting. KB's fine to level, honestly. I'm ranking these for day 1 through 3, which means different things based on a player, but I'm just thinking for me, I guess. I don't know, it's kind of a general, how will it feel early? I guess it's more like I don't know. 2 stone is too short for a league start rating. It has to be at least like past 4 stones. So I'd say like you've got all your stones and you're doing a basic mapping strat. You have an actual mapping strat set up. I do want to do a ward stacker this league. I wouldn't play a build that's not 4-stone viable. Yeah, it depends how hard it is to get an imbued gem. It's definitely harder than the rune graft. That's for sure. Remember, is more viable 4-stone than pizza sticks? Yes, I mean, I'm sure pizza sticks can do 4-stone on like a SF budget gear too, but the Jung POB stats for defense didn't look too good early. Holy hammer, I don't know, it's probably mid, it might be good though. Jung never caps his res. POB. Yeah. Oh, I didn't click him? I don't know if it has the fizz tag in its cast. I'm guessing it doesn't. It's Jung POB. It actually does. Well, fire. Usually Jang doesn't put those implicits, I thought. Yeah, I mean, I know it'd feel fine. We're leveling as Fire Witch and switch to Necro. Sure, but Wand Necro is pretty smooth to level 2. But you could. Respecking all that's probably a little rough. I did not use portals for defense because it's an actual good build. Get block cap, you'll have probably around 6k energy shield pretty easily. You've got fried rice with banana slices. Good. Try it. Go off meta combo. I'd guess it'll be a little less expensive. I don't know, I'm sure you could do it in SF, but probably rough. You should have done SSF last league. It was probably crazy with the tree. Yeah, SF was probably a pretty good time last league. I'm about to do Hierophant. Hyro is definitely what worse clear speed. I'm pretty sure it should be better defense. Should definitely be better defense. I'm guessing the DPS is. Not sure about the DPS actually. I don't know. I think investment is worse on Hyro because on Necro you're always gonna go faster, right? That was my PC. Yeah, is that in 3 minutes or do I need to boot that up? It's already started?
We have our I have my personality and stuff. Oh, should I send ads right now?
Oh no.
Yeah, I should send ads first, so that the people don't get messed up on this. I forgot about that. I don't know if I can do a 3-minute. I guess that's all this is. I don't really stream much, you know.
You're new to this.
I mean, I don't. I just like play game. Like, you know what Karn always says? Karn always says, "I'm not a streamer. I am a gamer," and it's the most based. I personally feel.
Impossible for new players.
And I feel the same way. Oh, creator dashboard. That's what.
If you don't like learning, yes.
Stream manager, is that what it's called? I feel the same way. You know, I don't really know what's going on. You know, if we had a single UI element, I would consider that way too much already.
You don't want a game that requires learning?
So you feel right now with your black bars and your floating cameras.
Yeah, absolutely. It's okay. That's what we have editors for, right? We'll run the we'll run the 230.
You got time. They're running late apparently. So
yeah.
you run as many ads as you want. You monetize this as much as you can.
I mean, if I could disable the mid-roll right now, that'd be better, but you know how things are, you know. Fucking Twitch. I must wait, because it recently auto-ran. What is this? Okay, so yeah, I guess we'll talk about the name of our pod. What we actually want to... For now, we're tentatively calling it... Take the Bait. And the reason we're calling it that is because we want to just be really inviting. We want people to engage right off the bat in a way that's easy, accessible, and kind of disarming. We really want to be able to ask both kind of hard-hitting questions, but also be really respectful and always give people the opportunity to say no. That's why it's called Take the Bait, not we're baiting you or, you know, the master baiters. You know, we want you to
Why is he talking like he's about to have sex with them?
You know, you can choose whatever response you want to have, and I think this is where we're at, you know. Yeah. And I know maybe Spawn's gonna feel differently later on and stuff. What do you really want to get out today anyways? What are you really hoping to hear?
What I want to get out of today is kind of understand the split a little bit more, and the 4-monthly patch cycle and how excited they are.
There's two best parts of this game.
Whether that is helping them workflow-wise.
The first best part is
create the game they want to create.
Learning the game. A lot of the if you don't like that, you probably won't like the game. That's the first
that's in the
couple thousand hours.
Prioritizing something else.
And the second one is after you reach the midpoint, you actually get pretty good, and you can do your own thing.
Gives me a lot of confidence as someone that actually enjoys.
I think the midpoint where a lot of people are at fucking sucks.
There's going to be a very
like you know a decent amount of stuff, but you don't know how to apply it, and you think you're better than you are, and you actually just suck. But you think you're good, but so you end up blaming the game for your own problems.
And I think that a lot of people like when the big patches hit, like, you know, reworked Atlas is always a really good league to be a part of. So I just want to hear kind of how excited they are about that and how their workflow is going now that they're kind of only working on the one game.
Yeah. I think it's interesting that they're headed that way with the one game thing. I think I kind of like it in a lot of ways, like, but then when I think about the problems, I think we like talked about this, but I saw a lot of the problems as being kind of shared across both games, at least.
Yeah.
In terms of like their sourcing, the causal mechanism. But hopefully,
what do you want to get out of it?
What I want out of this EP, oof, you know that I just want to learn about balance. Actually, I feel like maybe I don't know how long we'll have them on for today, but the one question I've always really misunderstood, I think, is about balance in PvE games. Kind of the ethos there, the theory there. Back in 2016, when I did interview Chris, or 2017, or maybe it was 2018.
Wait, I don't remember him interviewing Chris.
The problematic things in balance that they were worried about, like Righteous Fire was the thing he mentioned at the time about this life and damage scaling simultaneously, and I think we've seen a lot of continued inclusion of mechanics like that. So I'm curious about that. What's going on there? Yeah. And maybe like what their plan is for the future, what they see as problems, how they do their problem solving flows, stuff like that. But really high level, really balance focus, and maybe like a little bit about just like what kind of people they are, because I think last time we got a lot about like what's upcoming about the game, but the truth is like Andrew and Chris Octavian are the teams are still relatively small from what I understand, and they really spearhead and kind of have a lot of like discretion and about what happens. I think it's gives you more predictive power as a player, as a content creator, as someone who just like watches PoE, someone who likes PoE, to understand like why they do the things they do, what they want, what their vision is for the game, stuff like that. And I know we have a lot of bad words in PoE, like vision, like friction, but I think these concepts, when they're introduced and contextualized properly, are actually really useful for showing where people are at, you know?
Yeah, do you know the cool thing about I was watching the Ziz interview with Octavian and Chris, and it actually reminded me like of early days Riot. Like they very much obviously care a lot
they're
about the
interviewing
game and are very
Octavian and
protective about the game. And I think that one thing GGG as a studio has done is like whenever I see interviews with people that directly work on the game, they are very passionate and connected to it, and they haven't really hit the area where they're so big that they're completely disconnected from what they're building. I actually felt like I was at Riot when some of that transition happened, and now Riot's obviously tried to cull back and go back down to like the indie game studio feel. But I think that from where I'm sitting, I get very excited when I listen to people as passionate about the game as they are, and obviously as protective about the game, because I think that it makes it easier to trust that the balance that they're trying to put into the game actually makes sense. And they actually know what they're talking about a little bit, which is
Yeah,
nice.
I'll probably do it. Well, actually, I don't know. I think Palstron made one, so
because like the acquisition did happen, but then
I don't usually like to do things people already did.
Was actually like you acquire a studio and just let them do whatever they want to do and fund them, which is like what it should be, right? In terms of that sort of thing.
Yeah, for sure.
And like, I mean, why not, right? You saw what happened in PoE 2. Like that release was
the
just
weary traveler draws close to the end.
I mean, while we're waiting, do you know where you're starting at?
Or to your
do you have a good idea yet?
Do I know where I'm starting? The league start?
This guy Quantric.
Yeah, I mean, I know what I'm going to league start. I'm going to league start.
Not even the right nationality.
I just need to figure out how to get there. So I need to
thanks
figure
for the EP, guys. It's been good talking to you.
What the first 70 levels look like. So I think, I don't know, like maybe I'll just run back some smite leveling with your old school POB. Update it for me. I asked you to do it already. Give me a smite POB.
Pub.
Yeah.
I know some good smite pubs. I don't know if we're allowed to talk about those names on live anymore, you know, so we'll have to see.
Give me a General's Cry POB. Can I play General's Cry again? Surely.
Yeah, I wonder, like, I've always been, if today, like, ask about mechanics like that, things like General's Cry are always so weird, right? They're so complex, and they're so specific, and I still don't know necessarily how they work. Like, I've been playing with Stack Strike General's Cry for a while, and I don't know why it does the thing that it does. I don't know why it is that you can hit with it, and the General's Cry clones can hit and disappear, and keep these static strikes on the ground, and they're there dealing damage, and then they only disappear when you resummon them. It's like, what are the instances tied to? What's the damage instance tied to? How come they can be gone and that still be there, but then they disappear at this point? How come that doesn't work that way for Earthquake? You know, I think, like, man, peeping under the hood would be crazy in terms of how much more power it would give us. But the specifics are just like, kind of feel like, you know, it could just be like spaghetti here, spaghetti there, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's what I assume it is. Like, I know when I talk to people that I was really good friends with that worked on a League of Legends team that, you know, you always say like, oh, peeping under the hood would be so fun. And they're like, no, it sucks. It's like, you know, you change how long Phoenix Stance lasts on Udyr, and then you just completely break the whole game. And like, you all of a sudden have bugs on a Mumu. So I assume General's Cry is built somewhere in that area as well. Because the skill is... I mean, I think you actually had to put out like an FAQ on it, like when you created the build. Like I was just summoning clones way too quickly and just like butchered my DPS completely on that build. So it's good fun.
Yeah, these days I'm getting lazier and lazier. I think I was really inspired by like Captain Lance. He recently was like, oh, you know, I don't even make League Start. I don't even use POB anymore. And then I'm like, oh yeah, I get why. I was like, he must be an absolute mathematical genius. But then I realized, I guess if all you need to do is get more intelligence or strength, then you don't really need the POB. You just need to figure out which items give you the most of those, and you just slowly craft those in Bestiary. And I was like, I guess I can start doing it that way too, not really think about the mechanics. And I kind of mess with that. He's like, it's right? Like, I think I don't like to reference Pop Mania too much, but like, Moneyball was such a great movie. And I think anytime you can distill things down and simplify things and reduce mental load, whether in like gameplay or in build making, it's kind of OP, right? I don't like the stacker thing for that reason.
So you going Stacker again? Is that what you just announced your whole stream? You finally picked your build?
I'm playing Grey Wind this league. I mean, almost certainly Grey Wind. I don't think there's much of a chance I get away from that. It's like more fun than playing ES, and I like Assassin. I haven't played right side in a while now. I've been kind of stuck on this a bit meta-pilled for a while. I don't know. I think when I popped out, it's really interesting because like the endgame content is very like questionable, right? Like, what are you really trying to farm for? We used to farm like, what does your character look like? How's it strong? But increasingly, it's about specialization. Like, are you setting up your character for what X content? How do you do that best? And it's like, if I want to do like Baldos early and stuff, I think like lifestack could be decent. I'm a little bit worried about budget, because sometimes on leagues I'm actually kind of poor, but then I realize all the leagues in which I look at a day 2 POB and I'm like, oh, I have like maybe like 200-300 divines on that character, it's because I've been sick and then I would only play for like 10 hours. But if it's like, if I'm not sick, it should be fine. And then I would make a really cool character, showcase some stuff, maybe see him, maybe it'll flop. Like, I don't know, I haven't tested anything. It's been a hard pre-league, right? This is
All right, let me ask you a question, right? Because you're obviously running back softcore trade because you're talking about hundreds of divines. What made you go so heavily? Like I think the last 3 leagues now you've started softcore trade and tried to lead the economy there. Like, what made you invest so much more heavily into SC trade than kind of your SSF or HC trade days of kind of last year? Because you go in peaks and troughs, right? At the moment, you seem to really be on your SC trade era.
I don't think I've gone hard in economy ever. Pre-show would be the closest thing, but it was more just I want to make a character. I think.
Do you think softcore trade gets you closer to winning a gauntlet? That's my question for you. That was like, I feel like I'm going to run out of time to get to the end of the question. So I'm curious.
I'll put it this way. And this is probably the last thing we'll say before GG gets on. I think that when I got COVID and then had lingering COVID symptoms and then went away for a year, but might have been carrying a certain, viral matter in my body, and then I met Ben at the Alpha podcast at the Alpha release for PoE 2. That was more productive in terms of increasing my chances of winning Gauntlet than anything else that I've done. Even though he didn't get sick, if he did, that would have been my best chance. Maybe next time. But yeah, let's go check in with GG now. I'm gonna go on OneSource and do some audio tests.
Okay.
Oh god. And let's go here. I'm gonna turn Discord off for a bit, and I'm gonna skip calls. Cool.
Ooh, the weary traveler draws close to the end of the
sources
path.
too. What's good, dude? Couch is crazy. Yes, you're a little quiet. You're quiet. I have you guys at 200 already. I think you guys should turn up the mic side if you can. There shouldn't be gain problems.
Hey, why haven't they started yet? Holy, this production value rivals my own. Look at this. This rivals my own production value. It's almost as good. Almost. Not quite, but I mean, it's almost there, dude. Just needs a little bit more.
One, two, three.
podcasts.
Hopefully not super echoey and loud.
No, that sounds good. Yeah. All right, let me just get my last pieces here, and we should be all good to go.
Yeah, how
I gotta
did
line 'em
Jung
up. I did everything
convince him,
manually.
dude,
I
actually?
changed. All right,
Watching
there we
the
go.
mastermind that is Jung create his stream this is peak entertainment.
You know what they say? It's not about this. No, wait, that's not right. We're
How
focused
did
about the
they
content and
convince
stuff.
him?
What's up, guys?
Or I guess, how did he
Octavian,
convince
Andrew,
them?
hello. You guys good? You guys
Hello.
hear me all
Hello.
good?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Amazing. Welcome to the first EP of Take the Bait with me and Spawn. I thought I'd be able to take the chance to introduce you guys again shortly. I know that you guys got introduced recently. It was Ziz's pod, but yeah, are we all good for that?
Sure.
Sounds good.
All right, so
Volume sounds
formerly
pretty good
described
to me.
as the bedrock of PoE 1 by Octavian, and similarly described by secret, well-respected informants as the GOAT, my GOAT, and base savior, responsible for a lot of the major work on Path of Exile 1 these days. This is Andrew. It's someone I would love to hear more about, more gloat and glaze, a little bit behind the scenes, but can't wait for the future. And our second guest today is Chris Octavian, renowned amateur League of Legends caster from the time when I was playing amateur League of Legends too. You could call us actually both former amateur content creators. On the reel, I've watched a ton of your casting reel from back in the day when I used to scout for NACS, and he's actually one of the most underrated PoE build makers back in the day. I've stolen your Rainbow Trapper as inspiration for 2 races actually in the late 3.1s. Remade that on a quiz, saw the old Krima Necro stuff that I really liked back in the day too. I know Rise was part of that as well, but really underrated from back in the day, and can't wait to be talking to you here today. Welcome, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, that's a deep cut, man.
I mean, the content. It was actually a smaller world than I remember back
Water
then
slam
too,
too
but
tangy for too clunky.
maybe we can get into that a little bit. You know, there's some cross-cutting stuff, as you know, Spawn's a caster these days, and or it was.
I'm not a caster these days. I was a
Go
caster
berserker,
7
dude.
years ago. So
It's like these
good.
days,
Yeah.
man. So our podcast called Take the Bait. A lot of our questions we've already we've talked briefly about what we might want to cover, but at the same time I want to kind of start with something that you guys can choose to engage with or not. I think it's just something I've been curious about. Do you guys you guys both work mostly on the PoE 1 game, right? Almost exclusively?
At this point, yeah, we're exclusively on PoE 1. I mean, both of us have jumped between the 2 games over the years we've been here at the company, but yeah, as of the last few expansions, I've been only on PoE 1. I think Andrew has too.
Yeah, I think generally maybe from like that period of like 2020 up until like 2024ish, I would have said I was exclusively on PoE 1, and then in the lead up to like 010 and PoE 2's release, I was flicking back and forth a bit. But I'd say now I'm back on PoE 1 solely.
Amazing. So then do you guys think that PoE 1 is the best ARPG on the market right now because you guys work on PoE 1, or do you guys work on PoE 1 because it's the best ARPG on the market right now?
Well, I don't really think of ARPGs as like best and worst. I
Their
play
job,
all of them
bro.
generally, except strangely, I've never played Diablo 2. But I plan to
Whoa.
play it at some point. I'd say my favorite historically might have even been Grim Dawn or over Path of Exile 1, but it's pretty close between those 2.
Sick.
See, I'm a far less educated gamer when it comes to this department.
Dude,
I'm
this
very much a
interview is
very-
gonna
very
be
singular
good.
kind of person. Like, I have an obsession and I focus on that to probably the detriment of a lot of other things. So like, I've really not played very many other ARPGs. Like, when I go to play a video game, it's usually Path of Exile or like 1 or 2 other games. I just don't have a lot of breadth when it comes to that.
Yeah. I think I'm actually the same as you. Like, I've had very limited ARPG experience outside, and I think like actually over the past couple of years, seeing a lot of convergence and cross-cutting from the 2 PoE games has been unreal now. And like it's like once upon a time when they said like, yo, the benefits, you're gonna see them in PoE 1 and we're gonna see like the iterations between both. I really like didn't believe that, but it's so much more present now. Yeah.
Well, that's sort of the nice thing of having the 2 games. now is like both games can just steal the best parts from each other. And it's like you don't have to use them in the exact same way because they are different games, but it's like, have we talked about the volatile Varlord? Would you be okay if you want to explain it, or
whatever
is
you
that
want to
spoiler?
talk about? Go ahead.
Volatile Varlord.
Well, you know how in PoE 2 you have the corruption outcome where it divines the ranges of unique items outside of their normal ranges? I think there's a Mirage currency that's going to be doing that, which we haven't talked about yet.
Yeah, I actually don't. So another designer was the one who designed all of the like specific reward outcomes for various mechanics and mirages. So I don't actually remember off the top of my head exactly where it comes from, but it does come from Mirage.
Okay, so how much of those mechanics are like, hey, this cool thing exists in 2, I want to bring it to 1, versus, hey, let's design something that's going to go into both games simultaneously?
Rarely is something designed with the intention that it cross-pollinates into both games. Yeah. I say rarely, like I can't think of an example. Often it's, you know, this is a cool thing that has been in one of the games or the other and has been,
the genre
it's something either players like or we like, or hopefully both. And why not adapt it? You know, if it's a good idea and we can adapt it to one game or the other, working around however that game, you know, the constraints, so to speak, of whichever game, then wouldn't you want to do that?
Yeah, for sure. And do you guys like feel like the selfish plagiarism in that sense then like exists in like across other games as well? Like Andrew, like how often are you picking up like a different ARPG and thinking like, hey, I need to figure out a way to do this in PoE 1? And then like hopefully therefore it's like going across like multiple teams, or is it something where you guys try and stay internally with that? Like how does the actual design philosophy work with kind of how you look at mechanics in that way?
I mean, there's definitely conscious decisions to not straight up just like plagiarize something from another game, for sure. I guess most of the things you'd pick up might actually be like you'd unconsciously gather like certain cool aspects from other games. Like a funny story actually is like we started developing all these holy skills like right at the very start of this league cycle. So Chris was coming up with all these cool holy skill ideas, and then I think it was a few weeks later, Diablo 4 announced Paladin. So we were like all worried. It's like, oh, hopefully they don't think that because Diablo 4 dropped Paladin that we're going to have to, we're just like straight up copying them.
You guys should have copied the monetization
fact, like, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, that's it. You should have copied the Paladin monetization strat too. Super smart.
See, this is where my lack of knowledge of other ARPGs gets in the way because I have no idea what they did for that. But yeah, even like the fact that
Good
Holy
dodge,
Hammers is called
Octavian.
Holy Hammers, apparently there is a skill in Diablo that has a similar name, and I got some feedback internally that like maybe we should change the name because players will expect it to behave a certain way that it doesn't. But I don't know. Holy Hammers is a cool name. I like alliteration.
That's okay, yeah, because when Spectral Helix came out, that was sort of, I remember thinking at the time like that was the thing that's most related. And we were really excited about Helix, but obviously,
yeah, dude. Whoever agreed the Jung interview, they're sweating.
Actually, it was kind of really dominant for a while, right? I think we had that as the premier like skill for a while, and I think I'm gonna use that to segue into what I really am interested in, which is balance, because I think that kind of set melee weapon balance back for a long time. For about like a year, Helix was the skill. Damage numbers weren't there for anything else. And I guess the thing that I've always been thinking about is PvE game balance is really weird, right? In a sense of you're not actually balancing for like play rate against other players or win rate against other players. And I've always been curious kind of what the core priorities you're thinking about are. There's a lot more specifics, but how do you guys see that kind of concept in your context, in your domain?
Well, I think the goal isn't necessarily to get everything perfectly balanced just because of how ever-changing our game is. I feel like it's a little bit of a futile task, and we don't really have the time resource to develop to get that into like a perfect spot every time. But what you'd prefer to have is really, well, me personally, I just like a variety. I don't want the same skill to be running the meta for like 2 years or whatever, like historically. I mean, to be fair, we probably have had some skills that have been on top for quite a while now, and maybe we should more radically shift them out. But I think, yeah. Sorry, I lost my train of thought there. You have any follow-up to that?
I think like I want to hear first. I think because I think as you're talking, it doesn't need to be a clear answers, but getting the direction of where you guys are at is the most interesting for me to start this. I think. Yeah.
Dude, that was a me
Like,
answer.
I
That's something I would say. Sorry, I forgot. What's the next question?
Well is, you know, you're correct that it's not a PvP game. So like if skill A is strong, it doesn't make, you know, a player's experience worse who isn't playing that necessarily because they're not playing against skill A. But it still does in a way if something is like, you know, the whole premise of a game like Path of Exile is here. We have this really big puzzle. Come and solve it. You know, we have all of these moving pieces, all these uniques and ascendancies and skills and supports and whatever. Come and solve this or solve some little corner of it. And if there's a skill that just does a bajillion damage out the box with basically no effort, it's not a very interesting puzzle anymore, is it? So like that is part of it. Like there needs to be some, you know, balance needs to be in place so that it isn't just like I slot this skill in and win without any extra effort, which, you know, you can have your own subjective opinion on how well of a job we've done on that historically. And then you also don't want players feeling like, you know, there are a lot of choices that are basically pointless because this thing over here does everything better than every other choice. So like those are probably the two driving reasons why balance is important, even in a game that isn't PvP centric.
You guys feel like you're a little, or is there a reason why it's a bit more conservative these days as far as changing goes? 'Cause I understand the resource side, but let's say that the concerns then that you're bringing up right now are things like a really stale meta where things are like constantly the same, and then having like false heterogeneity, or false choice, like an illusion of choice, where you could pick all these skills, but like, you know, lightning strike is better than the rest. Not anymore, but hypothetically, right? What's sort of the hesitation these days? Because I remember we used to have those massive balance patches. We'd see like 20 on the low end or like a couple hundred skills just have their numbers changed. Is that a matter of resources these days still? Is that just about care? Is that like, what are the drivers behind not doing that these days?
I don't know. I guess it just hasn't been brought up very much. Like, I think there have been times in the past where the higher ups are like, don't shake the boat too much, because if people don't have their like tried and true safe skill, then they'll be more reticent to play the next league. So like from a personal point of view, I'd love if everything just got scrambled without even like a huge amount of thought going into like what goes up and what goes down. But going back to your like whole heterogeneity comment, that is one of the other axes of balance that we can address. Like if all the skills scale exactly the same, like a lot of the spells scale in the same way and a lot of the attacks scale in the exact same way. So if one of them is 10% better than all those others, then why would you play any of the other ones? So you need to kind of like try to differentiate all the skills as well in terms of like their damage shapes and their clear speed and their single target potential and their scaling axes.
So I have a question. I want to jump in here a little bit. Andrew, I don't know if you've played League of Legends, but Jung, Octavia, and I obviously have.
Strangely, I've never tried it.
Okay, cool.
God
so then you're
bless.
going to absolutely miss
God
this
bless.
one. But in League of Legends, when they balance, they like take an average player, like a gold player, and then they balance around that. But if there's outliers, say, you know, a champion is fine in gold, but then has like 100% pick rate in pro, then they'll obviously slap it down and be like, well, we don't want to see the exact same thing played in every single pro game. I was wondering if you guys could speak a little bit about what areas you look at when you're looking to balance skills. Is because like I was talking to Jung about this. Like you're not balancing for Jung. He's playing like 20 hours a day on League Start. Are you balancing around someone that plays, you know, 5 hours a day and the journey that they have through?
Well, they don't balance
Path of
around
Exile,
anything.
League
They
Start?
throw darts
How
at
do
a
you look at
dartboard and see
And
if
then
they hit.
I think that a lot of people talk about skills in terms of how League Start actually works around the abilities, but what other levers do you look at as the journey of the league happens? Because, you know, sometimes we're very slow to actually pick up which skills are good and bad as they're introduced into the game, in my opinion.
I feel like that's more of like a global question that goes across many, many leagues rather than on a per league basis, because the game's been out for so long now that we've kind of ended up in this steady state equilibrium where this is how things are and this is the difficulty of the game. And every so often we might shake that up with like making Act 1 extremely hard at some point in time and not doing it to the other acts. But yeah, I'm not really sure. Do you have anything on that?
I mean, on a specific skill by skill basis, usually my playtesting will consist of like, how does this skill feel immediately when I get it, and for maybe a few dozen levels thereafter? How does it feel in early maps? How does it feel in like yellow maps? How does it feel in like red maps? And usually when I'm doing those tests, it's like alk, enter map, do some combat, fight a boss, you know. So yeah, I'm not necessarily doing. I mean, we do have a QA department that also will test, and the QA department actually skews mostly, in my experience, towards testing things in their endgame and like giga juiced and super entrenched established player sort of context, because usually when we're hiring for QA, that is the kind of person that we hire. We're hiring people with thousands and thousands and thousands of hours in the game. So often what actually gets overlooked in testing is that stuff that I try and test while I'm, doing the major tweaks in the implementation to the skill, is the experience of it when you first get it, and the experience of it in like, on a crappy character who's just hit maps. Because, and that's not to say that we always get that perfectly right. There are skills that I have implemented that I would like to go back and try and improve that specific experience on. But that is, the first impression, and that is quite important for sure.
So then you guys are speaking from almost like a vacuum, not in a bad way, but from like your guys' perspective. There aren't like kind of key vignettes of like player vignettes or like player archetypes that you'd be thinking about, like, oh, we need to think about like Joe Blow, who enters maps at like 20 hours. Like, this guy is going to be weaker in this kind of way. Does that sort of like, is there kind of average player or like medium player that you're thinking about when you do like balancing changes? Or is it just about like this skill compared to other skills? Or is it the tools in the system compared to other tools in the system?
I'd say it's more on the skill compared to other skills and this tool compared to other tools. It's like I said, we're at this like sort of equilibrium state with the game where if we're thinking about the average player just getting into the maps, we're probably thinking on more of a global level. Like, for example, in Settlers League, when we like decided to buff basically all the melee skills scaling massively. So that's a thing of like, okay, melee players aren't having a good experience. Players typically think that melee is behind other archetypes. So let's bring melee up everywhere. Rather than on a per skill basis, to me, it's more like the skill is relatively worse than another, or the skill is relatively better than another, and we should bring them more closely in line, while also trying to differentiate them in like ways that aren't just damage.
He did right before the start,
like,
Rose around.
In terms of that, then I think like we've kind of ended up in a really skill centric place, but are there other levers that you guys are more comfortable pulling in terms of rebalancing? Because I know like the passive tree, for instance, is fairly static as far as things go, but we've seen some pretty big shifts in terms of, say, like gearing wise, right? Like the gear meta has changed drastically in the past 2 years, where an energy blade or an energy shield stacker used to be really weak, and probably for the past year now it's been very, very dominant in both like racing starts and hardcore and whatnot. So like what levers would you actually look to other than skill gems when it comes to rebalancing PvE?
I mean, our head of QA likes to say that everything is always more complicated than you think it is, and he's absolutely correct there. And it's one of the reasons why the past few leagues, I would say, we haven't seen huge shakeups in those large systems, because you can't really adjust a large system like that in isolation. If we were to go in and make a lot of changes to the passive tree, it would probably have knock-on effects to some uniques and some ascendancies and some skills and X, Y, and Z, and that isn't a reason not to do it. I would love to do all of these things. But yeah, it's tackling any of those larger systems is often going to be like one of the focal points of a league's of an expansion, if that makes sense. And that's often how we think about it. A given expansion is like there's we want to get X number of focal points and then a lot of miscellaneous extra stuff alongside it. For Mirage, for instance, it was the endgame rework, the league itself. Probably something that I'm forgetting going off the top of my head.
Yeah. That's not to say we haven't done many recently. Like, for example, you're probably going to notice you're finding a lot more currency this league.
True.
You might be slamming exalts on like crappy gear that you probably weren't slamming exalts on before. And I think in like a few of the previous leagues, there might be like subtle things that have vastly affected your campaign itemization, like the Gambler, for example, being in every town.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So like there's
So
definitely
cool. I was going to say, I part of what you just said was like really cool, Octavian, because I think that people, now that there is just like the PoE one team, are very interested in like kind of how you guys view your backlog, and like if there are any things in that list that you are like, we didn't get to it this league, but like I really want to get to it. And then from someone that used to work at Riot, I'm really interested like how much of it is a push system onto people working on stuff versus how much of it is a pull system of, hey, we have this like backlog. And Andrew, I'm really like, I love skill gems. Like I want to jump in, like grab like 40 of these things and change them before the new patch. Like you guys talk about like your workflow going into like how new leagues kick off and kind of what it looks like.
Yeah, I mean, usually it'll be around this time actually. The release of an expansion, we'll be talking about the next one, and it'll be like trying to work out those large points first, because yeah, we have a backlog of like, like I said, we have like 3 or 4 focal points to every expansion. We have a backlog of probably like 20 focal points worth of stuff that we want to do. And you can only fit 3 or 4 into a given 4-month dev cycle. And then usually within the course of that 4-month dev cycle, you get to the end and you realize, oh, there's this thing that would have been really cool and we could fit that in maybe next time. And it's like that cartoon meme of the guy who's trying to fit something into his daily schedule and he's pulling sleep out in order to do it. And yeah, we have internally we have an issue tracking system that has a backlog of a ton of these things, but often the issue tracking system is more for like the hyper specific stuff, and for the broader scope related things that's done more like just in conversations between designers and tracked in like internal documents.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of like cost benefit analysis that goes into like what type of things we touch as well. Like for example, next league, I'm not saying we're definitely not doing this, but next league we could say, okay, we want to rework mana costs throughout the game. And it's like, if you look hard at anything, you're going to find enumerate problems. But the thing is this a worthwhile goal? It's like, yes, okay, so Melee has this issue where mana eventually devolves into everyone using mana leech or minus mana cost on their rings. And it's like, should mana matter that much to Melee builds? Should it matter as much as it currently is for spells? Like, do they scale mana costs correctly? Are there any builds that are like particularly mana intensive? But that to fully audit mana is going to take a ton of our time, and then we might come out of it ending up making a bunch of changes which make people unhappy. So touching mana in that way is probably not going to be on our agenda. Well, maybe it will be at some point, but definitely not in the near future.
It's one of the things that Mark was talking about in the Q&A where like it's really easy to be scared of touching some of these systems.
Yeah,
be scared of touching, for instance, the endgame changes that we did this league, because there's an established status quo that is pretty good, but like it could probably be better in a lot of cases.
It's definitely easy to remake them, because when you copy paste something in Paint, it goes to the top
systems and
left,
basically
and I have
continue
to
to
drag
put
it over.
icing on the cake, so to speak. But sometimes you have to go and bake another cake, and that's much, much harder.
Yeah, I think like in terms of the system side,
the
thing that stood out to me most this patch, I think the intelligence nerf was the single, from my perspective, best balance line I've ever seen in a patch node. And that
well, the interesting thing about that is it was one of our QA who brought it up, but we were just looking at the relative ratio of the attributes compared to the bonuses they give and comparing that to the small node values on the passive tree. And all of them were basically correct, except the amount of energy shield you get from intelligence. Like, for example, I think on the passive tree, a small evasion node would grant you like 14% increased evasion, while a small energy shield node would be like 6 or 7%. So the fact that dexterity and intelligence were giving the same amount of percent evasion and energy shield was just wrong. And I guess that's just been wrong forever. Not to say everything needs to be perfectly symmetrical, but yeah, it was definitely justification for the nerf outside of it just being historically very good for a while.
Okay, that's more like simplified then. So when it came to like bigger, like when you're talking, I'm thinking about Expedition right now, as a patch, because I totally agree. I think the public perception to system-wide changes can be skewed very, very negative. And I was on that side for like probably a year and a half, where like 3.15 was like doomsday for me. I probably wasn't as vocal at back then, but like I remember thinking, oh my god, I'll never be able to go through a map again or go through the campaign. I remember walking to Blood Aqueducts in a race, getting frozen, and not pressing my flask and dying and thinking this game is doomed. But on retrospect, I think it's, and this might be unpopular, one of the like most important balance patches that ever happened. So is it a matter of building up like equity or trust, or like, and then also on the flip side, how do you see that patch? Like, how do you see a patch like Expedition in the grand scheme?
Well, I think there's things in the Expedition patch that I very strongly agree with, and then there's a bunch of mistakes we made on the patch which I think sold it more than it needed to be sold. So, for example, the damage support nerfs are like, I was very happy with those changes, because the damage supports at that time were just like 50% more damage on average for a damage support, and that basically invalidated a lot of the more interesting supports in the game. But the things that were definitely an issue with that patch were the mana cost multipliers being changed on supports. I think the numbers were ran, and it's like certain melee builds, just if you were using those same supports, it doubled your mana cost, which is definitely not acceptable. And then there was also, I think there was some problems with the flask changes, but I can't actually remember the specifics of those now. But yeah, I think Expedition certainly burnt us a little bit in the sense of like going and doing a full nerf patch. I don't know if we've done a patch since then on that scale in terms of like character power nerfs.
The one that I would be thinking about is not so much like system wide, but casters took a pretty big hit, I would say, especially in early game during the Divine Blessing change. That one was like really big. And then the changes to inspiration,
Frost Mage and Archmage are
going
like
from additive to multiplicative
opposites.
were really big for like casters across the board. I think that's probably responsible for a lot of like why there's a dearth of casters right now in like the early game. Can't think of anything else though.
Yeah, those two changes don't really come to mind. I'm thinking more of like a wide scale system change that just makes everyone weaker. But yeah, I can't really think of anything since Expedition, but there certainly would have been nerfs were done.
Well, like, I guess for me, like that kind of was like like pretty large scale. I mean, I guess there were casters using mana.
I don't
there
know.
was
Hammer Slammer is hit or miss. Don't
for like
know
a long
yet.
time, I think
I have
EV
seen
and like
when it
EVMLM
releases.
specifically, those two things were really dominant of like at least the league start caster meta. And maybe I'm wrong there. Well, I guess let me just ramble here instead. Or go completely differently. How wrong do you think I am? Or maybe more broadly, how dumb do you think the average like content creator, build maker, streamer is in terms of actually identifying what's strong and what isn't?
How dumb.
Yeah, I wanted to jump in on this because Jung told me yesterday that he thinks that PoE content creators are now too good. They've got the game figured out. And I was like, I am really curious to see whether the developers actually think you guys are good at figuring out their game, because I don't know whether that's true. Like, I think that every now and again, like, people completely whiff on what is actually strong in the current meta, and then you find it like 6 months later.
Well, this is just anecdotal because I played Kinetic Fusillade last league, right? Mm-hmm. I leveled it throughout the game and it was super duper smooth, and I played it all through endgame. And then usually what I do is I farm up a ton of currency and I'm like, okay, what am I going to invest my next build into? So I actually go on my local dev client and try out a ton of people's builds, like build creators ones that I see on Ninja. And it's like Kinetic Blast just didn't do it for me. Fusillade's just better. So people, even though Kinetic Blast was the more popular skill last league, I guess people didn't pick up on Fusillade so quickly, but it does seem to be pretty popular now.
Mm-hmm. I guess the other side of that coin, though, is like people will come up with builds that we just never saw coming in the first place. You know, like the whole, I don't remember the name of the content creator, so I feel a little bad not being able to shout them out specifically, but the guy who made the build that constantly canceled his own portal cast in order to spam out, you know, spells, like that was not expected and is a very cool build.
You know what's crazy? Stuff like that. I remember on week 1 of the league, there was like someone sent me a video of Billy showcasing the interaction, and I think I had forwarded it to GGG like right away. I was like, hey, there's no way this thing lives past like, I'm not even gonna bother making a build with this. There's not a chance this thing lives. And I saw it come up like a month later on an actual build. I'm like, what? Like when it comes to things like that, you know, like how often? That's just like a bug, basically, right? So
sure. You know, I mean, you're correct. It is a bug. I think that has been addressed in this patch, but it's still extremely creative and cool to leverage that. Like,
wait, can I clarify right there then? Can I just take that as a piece? So you said it's cool to leverage a bug, and it's cool if I do that in the future,
no,
right?
Jug, no.
In
It's all
some
good, right?
contexts, this is an extremely blurry subjective line. So like there is no like people look for like this, you know, word from on high, this authoritative take on like, you know, okay, what can I do? What isn't a bug? Like I can't anticipate the bugs that will be found. We try to. We have a QA department that's dedicated to trying to, but there might be, you know, there's always the chance that there's something in the game that, you know, I've overlooked, or you know, all of us as developers have overlooked, that gets found, and then it just has to be subjectively assessed in that time. Like it is really, unfortunately, just purely case by case.
No, and I think that makes a lot of sense. But Octavian, I'm kind of interested in your thoughts on like the OG question. Like, do you think that content creators are up to date with what is strong within the game, or do you think that, you know, are we playing in Freesia what was actually strong at the start of Keepers? Like, how good do you feel like the community and content creators specifically are at reading that meta balance that's within the game?
There's definitely some lag, for lack of a better term, I think there, but I think that's not necessarily like, I wouldn't want to say that's because, you know, the people playing the game at the highest level aren't smart enough to find these builds. There are definitely people who are making extremely
I would make that
builds.
comment for you. That's fine.
Well, no, because I have an interesting perspective on this, because I was a content creator for Path of Exile for years before joining the team, and if you want to be really successful at League Start, what you want to do, like the perfect build, is a build that has some new stuff going on that also is on a foundation that people trust. And then people will be like, oh, I know that this can be strong, but there's also some new cool interaction or new cool unique or whatever that it's using that can draw me in. Like people want, you know, I know this is going to work. I know this is going to be foundationally good, and also a little bit of spice. Like that's the perfect build guide. You know, you'll get the most traction, the most people watching, you know. So like there is an incentive to innovate a little bit and not too much at League Start, to be honest.
Okay, so let's talk about that, because on top of like whether they're good or bad, there's obviously PoE for a new player especially, and for a lot of intermediate players, if you don't have a build guide, you struggle to play the game. Like that's just straight up true. So how do you guys view like dev versus content creator relationship in terms of like actually putting out these good build guides? Because you're right, if you have someone put out a bad build guide, it completely destroys League Start for a lot of people. They never log into the game again. So how do you guys view that, and you know, what's your current thought on GGG's relationship with like content creators and build guide management? And, you know, third-party tools as a whole, right? Path of Building is like just so handy to be able to actually use all these things. And I know that people have been asking for like in-client mapping out the passive tree and things like that. How do you view all of this symbiotic relationship?
Well, I mean, I think overall content creation for the game and build guides and stuff have been a massive boon. You're correct that there are occasionally, you know, maybe there's a build guide that goes out that doesn't do, you know, that people get baited into, for lack of a better word, that is, you know, maybe does ruin some people's League Start experience. But what we can really do on the dev side about that is just try and make the game more approachable in general, so that, you know, I don't think we'll get to the point where you don't necessarily need any build guide at all. We'll see. But we can definitely do more on that front. For one thing, like the whole keywording system from PoE 2 is something that I'm personally really keen to bring back to PoE 1, because it's way better than the hold alt for reminder text system that we have right now. If we can get more ways to onboard people into the game without having to alt tab out to a wiki or go to a build guide, then the risk of that is minimized, right?
When it comes to like...
where does the name of this podcast come from? Just heard the word bait.
I think people are really incendiary. You know, people will say all kinds of things. The truth is, I think that I have never, ever made a bad build. There's just bad players that copy them poorly. And if
you're better than me.
If a good player copied my bad
builds
build
on my
it would be
YouTube
good.
channel, they do not hold up.
Actually, maybe I guess. I mean,
I don't think I don't think
where's
I'd
that
do a
come from?
GG
It's actually kind of
interview.
interesting because
No.
let's say I have a reputation for baiting people to build. Let's just say hypothetically. I'm not saying that's the truth. I think a lot of it has to do with skill complexity. So there's a skill that I'm seeing on this current patch that I think might be incredibly bait. I think it is potentially powerful, but looks to be weak, and that's I think it's Holy Hammer. It's the one where it's like you consume a power charge and you have the cascading thing. Is that Holy Hammer?
Mm-hmm. The row of hammers, yeah, sure. Yeah.
So there's been like speculation about overlaps and how much damage does this do? Because I think a lot of times we're trying to moneyball skills to get it down to if you do everything correctly in this way and you have the correct scalars for this skill and package it correctly, what is that damage effectiveness when you calculate attack speed and everything? I think there might be like overestimation on the Holy Hammer, for instance, because we don't know about the consistency of overlaps and how much damage it actually does. So from my perspective, I see that a lot of that risk or like whether something will be good or bad and that sort of like unknown factor and the complexity is actually just about not knowing how a skill functions, specifically as it pertains to hit rate, right? And I'm not sure like what you could or would even want to do to elucidate that better for players.
I don't know, because I think this fundamentally comes down to like what kind of player I am as well, because like we have this game that like I said earlier is this incredibly complex puzzle, and that kind of encourages people to solve it, and it also attracts people who want to solve that puzzle. And for a lot of people, it's just about like solving the biggest number, like, or maybe you pick a skill and then from there you solve the biggest number for it. Whereas when I'm approaching a build, I more want to like get the numerical aspect of it to a point that's comfortable, and then it's about solving how the playstyle feels for me. I don't know. I feel like I'm not answering your question super well. I'm not trying to dance around it. I think I have a very different way of thinking about this sort of thing than necessarily translates well onto like, a DPS estimate or just numerical estimates of how effective a character is. Like that's just not necessarily how I look at a build most of the time.
Yeah, I feel like from a player's point of view, the new skills are like there's more excitement in not knowing how effective it is just by the numbers off the gem because of all those external factors, by not knowing the hit rates or the number of overlaps, for example. So I feel like I sort of like there not being perfect information going into a release for that.
I think I do too.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to say that's interesting because you got someone like Jung that's going to look at a skill and he's going to pull it apart, and if the damage effectiveness isn't high enough, he's just never going to touch the skill, right? He's like not even going to do it. Then I did like
consider making a spreadsheet
like,
this league.
Oh, I played Paladin in all these other games. There's now Paladin skills. No matter how little damage I do,
maybe I should just make it a spreadsheet. I already do the paint for the flow chart.
And I guess like that becomes like nearly an economy question, because it's like, okay, if the skill operates in that way, then how far ahead or behind do you become in the economy? Because if you play a great skill, you get ahead if you play the game enough, and then you're able to make the skill even better. So I think that that's actually quite interesting, going back to the first area of like balance of like how you approach like how these skills operate within in a game that has such a big economy on League Start, because I think that is something that we were also quite interested in, is like, do you guys balance your skills around like, this is mainly a SSF player that's going to interact with chat a little bit, or do you guys think about your skills as in like, hey, we have, especially in softcore trade, we have like a completely wide open economy. You have access to completely every single item in the game theoretically, and a lot of them are quite cheap after like 2 or 3 games. That's what we expect the players to be able to utilize to be able to create these build guides.
I will say that like when I'm approaching trying to come up with skill concepts, like all of that is not unimportant, but it is secondary to, does this skill have a cool power fantasy? Like, does this skill have a cool, unique way that it functions and that fulfills a certain, like I want to be dropping giant hammers on huge packs of monsters, like that is why Holy Hammers exists. And then from there, it's okay. Well, what spacing do we need on the hammers in order to have it be competitive in terms of overlap? What effectiveness does this skill need, given that it functions this way? But like, we first determine how does the skill need to function in order to fulfill the cool base fundamental concept, and then work out the balance around that. And that sometimes means that you get to the point where you're trying to work out the balance around the cool base fundamental concept, and you just can't. And then the skill gets cut. There was actually one additional skill that was meant to go into this patch that, the concept was cool, but it didn't translate well enough in game into like actual play at a moment to moment level. And it's been told it'll maybe get redesigned and go into 329 with some changes, or a future patch, or become a unique item or something. We don't want to waste the assets that have been made, but yeah, like that's not to say like it's only about power fantasy and class fantasy and whatever you want to call that, but it is like the starting point.
No, I think that's really cool. I love Crackling Lance. It's like one of my favorite abilities. Like I'll run it like probably like once every 2 leagues, even though I think it is a little bit like underpowered at the moment. Because like I just love the power fantasy of like big beam becomes small beam when I have to stand still and like concentrate it on something. Like it's just such a cool ability to me. So
Yeah,
I do
will
agree.
say that
That's cool.
I think next patch, it has been tabled quite a few times already, but self-cast is definitely on our radar. Oh, and there is also a new exceptional support specifically for intensity-based skills, which might be pretty good with Crackling Lance this league.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, like sometimes we'll fall a bit short in terms of the balance on those class identities and fantasies, but like it's important to have them because you want skills to feel distinct, because otherwise you go back to the problem we discussed earlier where like every skill operates the same way. This one is 10% better. Why would you use these other 5 skills, right?
Yeah.
And it's hard not to fall into that trap, especially when you have triple digit number of skills in the game. But yeah, something like Crackling Lance is a good example where it's a cool concept that maybe just needs some more numerical love, and that could be in 329 or 330 or whenever. And it's good to have those cool concepts in the game because you can always buff numbers in a future patch.
Yeah.
AutoCAD.
To me, it seems like arriving on the right number has got to be really hard because of certain things as far as design space go. Like I think there's certain mechanics and items and skills that restrict the design space of everything else, because in their absence you could be a bit more like relaxed, but with their presence it becomes ridiculous. Like things like Penance Mark, for instance. I know like on release, I actually do want to hear about that specifically when it was like introduced, but at the time of Penance Mark's release, I remember building around it because I saw the trailer. I did a bunch of like screen measurements to see, okay, is this within 1.5 radius sometimes? And I made a whole low tolerance Pathfinder proliferation setup. Skill comes out, forget about what Peacock did on League Start, but now it's at 3.5 to 4.5 radius. And I saw, I guess, how problematic it would have been, but there's like that aspect. But then I think about like, even now with that in Southbound, you get like massive issues with overlaps. I think Nimbus is another great example of an item that might have greatly restricted design space. I've always thought about what if I just like didn't do that. Like return projectiles, kind of setting what you can and can't do in terms of introducing new projectile skills, balancing that. Do you think there's like big problem outliers that you wish weren't there? Or is it just something that's more interesting now for your problem solving to create that puzzle?
Well, I think something like Nimbus to me is more fine because it is such an extremely rare in-game item. Like, yeah, for the average player, they're probably never seeing a Nimbus. What was the other example you gave, sorry?
Penance Mark.
Yeah, no, Penance Mark is getting near Wormblaster in terms of like, or the Writhing Jar in terms of levels are problematic. Whenever we design a new skill, someone's like, but what about this and this with Penance Mark? So maybe it will be adjusted at some point because it does keep on cropping up in terms of our like QA testing.
Now, this should not be taken as there being any changes coming to this keystone, but like definitely not. Though maybe this will get clipped out of context still, we'll see. But like CI is the biggest example of this. Just immunity to a full damage type is very cool. Like that's super iconic. CI is an incredibly iconic keystone, and it's great that it's in the game, and it means we can't have an endgame boss that's full damage chaos, right? Because otherwise you play CI build, you're immune to it. You can't have this thing that's supposed to be threatening and challenging do full chaos damage, or else suddenly you can click a keystone and be completely immune to it. So like it is, yeah, exactly. But like, if you want to put cool stuff in the game that's transformative and game changing, you have to build those constraints for yourself. It's impossible not to, or else everything is milk toast. Everything is like flat and vapid if you don't have interesting spiky constraints that you have to build around.
Yeah, I definitely see like some things is adding more and some things is adding less in that way. Like I remember when I was going through the unique design process, when I was looking back at some of them, I'm like, oh yeah, given what happened in the next few patches, this would have adding this one item would have actually removed 3 different items, 4 different skills, and the possibilities for like 2 different skill trees. But when it comes to like overlaps and splash, I think that's always going to be one to consider. The other thing I had about that was, I guess, like, it was reminding me that penance marks, that specifically, the implementation, it basically, and correct me if I'm wrong, it changed from the time that from the trailer to when it was launched, right? The skill functionality.
Are the other builds even more
I
tanky?
think yes, the radius at which the
Pretty much every other build on this list is
spawn
tankier than the
around the
Holy
monster was made further away. I'm pretty
Relic
sure. I
is
don't know if
not
there were any other
tanky.
changes, but yeah, that was certainly the case.
So then, do you think there's been like an increasing degree of comfort from your guys' side in terms of changing the game, or like changing what's the state of balance or skill functionality or item functionality from the point at which the patch release happens on Thursday to when the patch actually drops on Friday? Or sorry, the trailer on Thursday to when the patch drops on Friday? Because I feel like from my perspective, there's been a lot more. Every day we have like a brand new list of notes, whereas back in the day it felt a little bit more conservative in that way.
Well, I guess also it is, we used to drop the patch notes on the Wednesday before the release, so we do the patch notes far earlier than before. So I guess it hasn't really changed our like freneticism in terms of like trying to get more and more changes in just before release.
Yeah, I guess you're now just like seeing a lot of the changes that would have previously been invisible at that point, because yeah, there is usually, you know, last week before release, there's something that comes together and we didn't realize, you know, this is going to be a problem, and then unfortunately you have to fix it. I want to avoid that as much as possible. Like, I really dislike, one of my favorite things about the role, about the job, is being able to like show players cool stuff, and I really dislike when I show a player a cool thing and then it's like, oh wait, no, actually we have to change that. So I want to try and minimize that as much as humanly possible, but sometimes it slips through.
What do you guys think about your timings at the moment? Because I know, Octavian, in the Ziz interview, you were saying that you love that there's a certain amount of undiscovered things going into every new patch. And sure, it gets data mined and stuff, but the average player probably isn't looking at that. Do you guys now like the change where the patch notes are way earlier and people get a longer time to plan? Or do you think that there is a way that you would go back to, like maybe later patch notes and having a little bit more surprise going into the actual league start week? And I remember like waking up, like I'm Australian, like waking up at like, 2, 3 a.m. putting the final touches on builds, the morning of the league launching.
I think personally, I preferred the patch
What else
notes
should I
being
do?
on the Wednesday, but the reason for that was because I feel like on the Friday of the live stream, you get too much information overload because you have the live stream, all the new stuff, and then you also have the patch notes. So having like that teaser season prolonged from like the live stream, and then you're also looking forward to the patch notes in a few days.
Yeah. I don't know.